The fear was, with this, unprecedented growth that we were all expecting, starting to happen, is the ISPs were concerned, and even governments and regulatory authorities were concerned that we could see like basically a huge congestion on these last mile networks, which would lead to just a very poor performance, because the internet works really, Ethernet works really well up to a certain point, like 80, 90%. Once you get into that, you can't get that last 10% just because everyone's like backing off and contending, and all of the other algorithms kick in. So there was a risk that we felt we were going to run out of internet. Now, we were fortunate in the fact that because we were planning ahead for a very big 2020 anyway, a lot of the CDNs and ISPs had built up capacity to deal with the Olympics and with the big sporting events. We've got elections here in the US coming. We've got all of these other things going on, which would drive up demand, as well as, especially we had Disney Plus, HBO Max, all these other big services launched. So we put a lot of capacity, which thankfully, with some other techniques, has proved to be enough so far.
Mm-hmm.
So what either through service providers kind of stepping in response to requests from their ISP partners, or from regulatory authorities, particularly in Europe, saying, hey, we're concerned about this. They went through a series of processes to basically look at the basically video streaming content, which probably accounts for about 70% of all traffic being delivered, and said, what can we do to try and lower the top bit rates? What can we do to bring down that total envelope and ensure there's at least a good chance for fair share and that everyone's going to get a good experience out there? So there's really three places you can do that. You can go back to your content and say, let's re-encode it to lower bit rates. People are doing that because they want to look at these new kind of per title encoding techniques, these context-aware encoding techniques. There are new video codecs like HEVC, which if your target devices are TVs or boxes or sticks, it's pretty good support now. So now is the time that a lot of people have gone back and started looking at that. That may not be quick enough to help you meet a real-time request like this, like how can we lower bit rate? So the real simple way a lot of people did it was they literally went into their manifest and they took out their highest bit rate. So they had like a 6.5 meg at the top, then a 4 meg, a 3 meg, etc. They just simply went in and deleted the 6.5 meg at the manifest. That meant when the player starts, it just simply wouldn't get the 6.5 meg. Now, there may be a 1080p rendition at 4.5 that's okay, it's not as good, but it certainly means that at least everyone can access the content rather than just a few people, and then it kind of starts to fall apart. So that kind of manifest manipulation is kind of the core of a lot of the other things you can do. Is you can go to the player and you can actually put player behavior in there that says, under certain conditions or triggered through an API, I'd like you to only go up to a certain bit rate. I don't want you to just try and consume as much as possible. I said I want you to go up to 5 meg and stop there. That's and that's what people like Netflix did in Europe. They said we're going to basically limit everyone to a 480p experience. So that's like an SD experience. Rather than let them go all the way up to the HD. Things that you can do from the CDN, this is actually a feature we have. When we deliver the manifest, we can use our manifest manipulation capabilities to dynamically adapt to that manifest as we deliver it. So rather than you have to go in and edit all your files and kind of manage that process on your origin, we can, based on time of day, based on a particular network, if it's going to, say, a DSL network versus a CMTS network, you can, or it's going to a particular city or a particular geo that maybe has some, where the regional ISP is struggling, you can set a rule that says, based on those criteria, I'm only going to serve a manifest that has bit rates up to 4.5 meg. So if there are bitrate renditions, say it's 6 and 7 in there, it simply will just remove those automatically, but only for those viewers in that geo. So you don't have to go back and mess with your whole catalog, and only maybe say in the evening. So between say 4 and 6 in the evening, I'll serve these kind of more limited manifests. But that's a way of trying to, flatten the peaks.
Right, exactly.
Everyone's been flattening the curve recently. This is talking about flattening the kind of the network demand curve as we go in there. So the final thing you can do is, and this is something we actually deployed in Europe, was just pure bandwidth throttling of connections. If you're sat at home and you start watching a movie, it may have like a 6 meg rendition at the top of the ABR ladder. Your cable modem connection probably easily gives you like 100, 150 megs if you're on a good, good high-speed package at home. So that traffic may get served to you at like 150 megabits per second. Now, the top bit rate was only, say, 6. You got that, you get that video in like 3% of the time it takes the segment, which is great, but there's a lot of idle time for the TCP connection, and it's a lot of bursty traffic, that all these very big peaks coming down the pipe. So something we can actually turn on is a throttling mode. So we can say, we will deliver it at 3 to 5 times the maximum bit rate that you need to serve, which means the players will all adapt up to the highest bit rate, but they'll be spreading their traffic out over a much longer time. so that the ABR algorithms will have a much better time trying to figure out what the actual bandwidth is. And so at least it make the streaming connections on that pipe much more even and much more predictable for both the ISP to be able to monitor and then make recommendations, and from the player to be able to stabilize at a comfortable bit rate, rather than kind of thrashing as it's kind of seeing lots of lumpy traffic and lots of other congestion on that last mile link.